Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for clicking on this video. My name, of course, is in the game Kaya. And I'm here with Super Shadow 515. Say hi.
What's up, everybody? Today, we are doing episode 2 of our NBA 2K20 podcast. And,
At least this year it's NBA 2K20.
yeah, at least this year it's NBA 2K20. It's our NBA 2K podcast overall. And, we're going to start with going back to episode 1.
Yeah, so it's only been 2 weeks. We've only put out one episode, and I already have to go back and rewrite something that was in the first episode. Because literally like 2 days after episode 1 was up and posted, we talked about what is, in my opinion, maybe the worst big man build in the game. And then I faced one only a couple days later that, as if to stuff it in my face, that I said it was the worst build. I, as a part red big man, I'm all red. I'm a paint beast. I'm red-blue, 7 foot, max wingspan, max weight. You got like a 97 interior defense. Hall of Fame Intimidator, Hall of Fame Rim Protector, Hall of Fame Pogo Stick. Could not stop that man for my life. And I almost exclusively play big man. I might as well be a superstar. I'm like 98.1%.
Yeah.
So if I spent a half an hour in the park, I would be a superstar 1.
And on that subject, you are basically Superstar 1, which we said in episode 1 that we were going to focus on you.
33% of the way
about
to Superstar
35, 37, somewhere in there. About a third of the way to Superstar 2. Which, by the way, it's about twice as much after you hit Superstar. It's ridiculous. But anyways, let's just get that out of the way now.
Yeah, the interior force, I thought the concept of it, because smaller bigs should be able to play consistently decent defense on those bigger big men and stop them from scoring, to the point where I thought, okay, as a smaller big man, you get driving layups. Driving layups are more effective because the smaller your big man is, the more driving you can do. At 6'9", you're basically a combo inside-outside scorer. You go lower than 6'9" at power forward, you're more of a slasher.
Usually a slasher.
You go over 6'9", you're an under basket finisher, kinda.
Yeah.
The taller you go, the more under basket you get. And I thought, okay, under basket is so hard to score as a big man. To get the dunks, to get the layups positioned right consistently, and make sure that 2K is letting you finish, I forgot 2 things. Number 1, I go for a lot of standing layups and not post hook shots, which I might need to switch and try more, shooting more post hooks. I might have given up on it too much, because it's a lot easier to time your shot, your layup with Pro Touch, on a hook, because the meter actually matches the animation with Pro Touch.
Which, as a big man that scores inside, I'm sure that's a pet peeve of yours.
It kind of is, yeah. Layups, the meter on layups is broken. You get a full bar and it says late. Not slightly late. It says just flat late, which irks me. Slashers can have that problem too, and I don't see a lot of green layups. Post hooks, on the other hand, the meter is consistent. At least on the animation that I use, it's consistent. So it's a lot easier to get the timing right. And then you get that big boost to Pro Touch. You add on Slithery Finisher. And you get, even without deep hooks, if you have Hall of Fame Pro Touch, you can put up post hooks from 13, 14 feet and just splash them all game.
Yeah.
It's like having a mid-range jump shot. You can stretch the floor. Keep your matchup away from the rim. Just hit one or two of those.
And that's on Pro Touch, not on deep hooks.
Yeah.
And that also boosts your ability to hit standing layups or driving layups.
If you can time them well.
If you can time them well.
I usually throw a badge point or 2 on consistent finisher to help. Anyways, I thought that it's so difficult to get a standing layup. This all blue that is going to have to go for just standing layups and won't be able to drive, it's just going to have problems getting those layups off against so many big men that are at least part defensive builds, whether it's a paint beast or a small all-red glass lock, which actually it says paint beast because your blue gets high enough at that point, it says paint beast.
And when he says small, he means 6'9",
6'9", 6'10".
You have one of those. It's an all-red, but it has contact driving dunk ability. It's a paint beast. It actually says paint beast.
Mm-hmm. So I can score under the basket. I can slash.
But against these smaller bigs, or these part red bigs, this build is actually effective. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, you said there were 2 points, and then you spent 3 straight minutes talking about point 1. I imagine point 2 is the fact that you basically don't see all red big men very much at all.
Yeah, and the littler big men that you see, too, most of them find it very difficult to get blocks. Because you need a longer wingspan. You have a high block rating, you can still get blocks. You'll get blocks. Like, you have a part red big man, you get blocks.
My stretch lock that I talked about in episode 1 is a 7-foot green-red. He has I think a 95, around 90 to 95 interior defense and an 89 block rating. And Hall of Fame rim protector. He gets blocks. But I struggled to stop a couple of interior scoring players that I faced since we recorded episode 1, because he's short, and he's 7 foot. That's not necessarily short, but I went shorter wingspan, that's a problem.
Now at 7 foot max wingspan, I get my fair share of blocks, but I have a 7'3" max wingspan paint defender. It's a red-green build.
Currently has like a 75 block rating and gets tons of blocks.
I got tons and tons of blocks, and it makes me think that and I've noticed that 7'3", you have a 7'3" glass lock too.
Right. That was my first big man. I made an all red glass lock 7'3", max defense. I wanted to be the ultimate rebounder and interior defender. That stemmed from one of my favorite big man builds in 2K19, which was a rebounding rim protector.
And your build, whether you used it or I used it, because I played with it a couple times, was better at getting layups off under the rim than my paint beast, which is part blue.
And that's purely because
he's taller for one, and he's got a longer wingspan.
Right.
Because even though they're both max wingspan, being taller means you have an even longer wingspan.
Right. So he has the ability to keep the ball away from defenders. Now, the way I built it, because he's not maxed yet, he needs a higher close shot rating for standing layups, but that's besides the point. Anyways, we're kind of getting a little off topic here.
Yeah.
With the actual finishing ability that we didn't think that these builds would have.
With the right badge setup, the right person holding the controller, and being in the right matchup, which is basically a 7 foot or under part red build.
Which is basically every big man. Not all of them, but most of them that you're going to face.
You can make the interior force work.
Right. It can actually work.
And being 7'3", it'll play better defense than other non-red builds.
That's true. Now, we're not saying that it is now a great big man.
I still think it's one of the worst builds.
But it's not as bad as we originally said that it was.
Yeah. So that's one thing I just wanted to get out of the way. So now let's talk a little bit. I said we were going to talk about this last week as kind of the primary talking point of this episode is playing 2K20 without spending money on VC. Now, I had been playing without spending any money on VC up until 5 days ago. Someone bought VC for me, which is effectively the same as buying VC for yourself.
And then on top of that, because he bought you $20 gift card, you got a little extra to basically get a new player.
To build a build right away that I could use right away, because we didn't have anything that what he wanted to use, what I wanted to use, just did not work together. Right. So we had to work that out. So he gave me some, and then I finished.
He kind of spent money on VC.
Kind of, but I have 3.5 months of not spending money on VC, and you haven't spent any money on VC. 4 months.
Pretty close to 4 months. But yeah, I have not, after the 100,000 VC that I started the game with, getting the the Dwayne Wade Legend Edition or whatever it is, I have not spent any extra money on the game. I've not gotten any extra VC. So I still qualify for this discussion fully. You're just going to talk about it without this last player that you built.
Yeah, so I'll discount this my post-scoring guard.
Your post-scoring guard that's like a 6'5" mellow. Yeah, we were talking about this right before we started. He goes directly against... He T-bones the meta.
Yeah, everybody's going one way, and I just tangent 90 degrees. I'm going to I know what everybody's gonna do, so I build something to work directly against that.
But
and
anyways,
then when stuff gets patched, I don't get affected by the patch. See, that's how it works.
So anyways, what does it take to compete without buying VC? And my first thought is it takes a lot of time just to get a player started. Say you just got the game with, I assume, I haven't checked, the price just recently dropped with it turning over to a new year. Say you're just starting out and you want a build to use with your friends in the park. You're going to need to play a lot of NBA games to get that build to a reasonable level. I have started a player and I've got him up to an 84 overall.
It takes roughly one full season to get a player up to 99 overall.
Right.
If you want to, you hit 95, but between the VC that you earn from games and endorsements and whatnot, and then to get through the playoffs, end of the season, to get to 95, get your badges, the VC and everything, it takes about one full season of NBA games.
And that takes a lot of time. Now, this is on 5-minute quarters, so it goes by a lot faster. I used to be a 12-minute quarter guy. That took a long time to complete.
You got your badges faster.
I got badges faster, but it took a long time. But focusing on the VC part of it, playing 5-minute games helps. You get not quite as much because your stats are a little bit less per game, but you complete so many more games, and it just moves so much faster. It makes the grind of an NBA season a lot easier.
And if you can get good enough at the game that you can start simming out at halftime, specifically the VC part of it will go a lot faster.
Yes, that is another
Also,
good point.
one thing you absolutely have to take advantage of if you're not spending money on VC and you want to grind your player the old-fashioned way, you have to play MP Nation games. There's one thing you have to... There is a glitch. We're not going to go into the glitch.
That's not the purpose of this?
No.
You can look it up.
You can find it.
But there is a way you can play basically unlimited MP Nation games with one player.
It is limited, but...
It is limited,
it's
but...
a big limit.
Yeah, it's a pretty big limit. Anyways.
It's not necessarily a glitch, it's more like an exploit.
Anyways.
But, okay.
You can play MP Nation games and get double the VC. With the drop that 2K did to the VC you get per game to 750 if you play through the prelude and 500 if you don't, you're still going to get about 2,000 VC for playing a 5-minute quarter game.
Oh, and by the way, shout-outs to 2K for cutting how much VC you get by 25% basically across the board.
And not telling anybody about it.
Oh, they found out. And
people found out, but they didn't tell anybody.
People were shouting about it, but they did it. And I assure you it's because they thought people were earning too much VC, they wouldn't buy any.
But anyways...
It's still better than 2K19.
Yes. Anyways...
That doesn't mean it's good, but it's better.
It takes a long time to get a player ready. Now, if you just want a build that will work, 80 to 85 overall, he's got a good amount of badges.
You can hang. You won't necessarily win, even if you play well, but you can hang.
Yeah, you can be effective in spurts. You're not going to be that guy that goes out and dominates everything.
At that point, it's more about having the badges.
Yeah. But at that point, I have a build that's at an 84 overall right now. Mostly got the VC through playing with that player. He's around, I think he's just went into January. And I have played a couple of MP Nation games with him. But this guy, he works. Now, he's not complete. By far, he's not complete. It's an all-around build. But he only has playmaking, shooting. It's a guard. He has playmaking, shooting, and perimeter defense. So, he
everything
works,
else
though.
kind of falls into place around that.
Right. So anyways, you can make it work at about an 85 overall with a good portion of your badges. Another part of this, if you're going to be serious about playing online, is buying boosts. Everybody plays with boosts. It's almost mandatory to run with boosts.
Especially if you're a jump shooter.
Especially jump shot boosts.
Especially if you're a floor stretching option that's not all green.
Right.
Whether you're part green or no green, if you're going to try and stretch the floor,
you need jump shot
stand
boosts.
in the corner or whatever, you must run with jump shot boosts.
Yes. But to play with boosts, you can support playing with boosts.
And
just
if you're
by
a dribble
playing...
god, y'all need Gatorade boosts.
Yes. But that doesn't cost you anything other than about 5 minutes of your time before you start playing with your friends. Anyways, you can support playing with boosts just by playing through park games. Even in a loss, if you play okay, you'll get between 150 and 200 VC, which isn't much. But you can buy 10 packs of boosts for 1,500 VC, which means you're at least breaking even and probably getting just a little bit extra on top of that. And if you're a good park player and you're winning games, you're getting 350 to 450 VC. That's more than enough to run with 2 categories of boosts. So you can make it work. You're just not going to be getting a lot of VC on top of that.
Yeah, park is fun. If you're just to play 2K with your friends and not trying to try hard it, park is probably your mode. You won't earn as much VC or rep from playing park games, even 2v2 games, which go by faster. And you get good at 2v2 games, which means you're cancer. It goes by faster, but still the best way to grind rep and VC online is Pro-Am 3v3. It's the best way to do it. It's
super toxic. Everybody runs heavy screen cheese.
It's the most meta. That's where you learn the meta, the leading meta.
Yeah. You run against...
Two's meta is different.
Yes, it is a lot different.
But, and I learned this because I follow a guy on YouTube who does a lot of twos, and his opinion of what is broken and what's leading the meta is just a little bit different than my opinion.
But we are primarily threes players.
We play threes.
That pretty much exclusively play threes. We don't even like playing in the rec because we don't have 5 people all together to run with.
Twos can die in the Great Chicago Fire. Anyway, Pro-Am 3v3 is the best way to grind.
Yeah.
If you're going to play online and try and grind badges, try and grind rep, which especially if you're getting into the game at this point, you need to grind rep as fast as possible if you want to hit legend.
And try and get VC.
If you're going to try and get
specifically VC
while you play online, Pro-Am 3v3 is the best way to do that.
Now, Pro-Am 3v3, you don't get that's not what I mean to say. You don't get that much more rep for playing a Pro-Am game than you do from a regular park game.
But the VC makes up for it.
You get double the VC. And
At
least. And that's if you're not running with the double VC from the spin wheel or a locker code.
Mm-hmm.
So you get double VC on top of that. You're now getting
1,300 VC,
VC per game.
Which might take
up to potentially 1,600 VC per game.
Which might take 6 to 10 minutes,
and,
which is like half of an NBA game.
And that's why we say that 3v3 Pro-Am is one of the best ways, probably the best way, to grind online for rep and VC.
You have to have people in your Pro-Am team to get it working, though. So make sure you get people you know, people you can trust, or whatever. And even if you're losing, you'll still get a decent grind in just by putting in the time. Not necessarily rep-wise, but VC-wise at least.
You have to have the patience for it, though. Like we said, 3v3 can be very toxic. So just be prepared for
Specifically Pro-Am, 3v3 can be very toxic. Playing in the park is a much more casual experience. You'll probably have a better time with it and enjoy it more. But if you want to actually earn stuff, then playing 3v3 Pro-Am, which we still do. We did
from
just
time to time.
That for a while.
Right.
And now we've kind of learned to balance, okay, today we're feeling pretty good, we're going to go play Pro-Am, versus today we're just kind of here to have fun with our friends, we're just going to play park for a couple hours.
Yeah. So I think we've covered this point pretty well.
The next thing I want to talk about is the guard meta. Because we talked about big men so much in episode 1, I think we should take the time and talk about guards in episode 2.
Right. And especially because guards dominate the meta. They dominate online. Anywhere you go, you're probably facing a dominant guard. Unless it's a 1v1. Big men still rule in 1v1s. But
they can be beat, but mostly big men still rule in 1v1.
So this is going to be another one that's probably one of our major talking points, maybe even going forward as the meta changes.
And this is probably something we'll retcon in episode 4.
Yeah.
But we'll get there.
So I'd like to kind of break it down, and I am usually...
He's the guard.
Yeah,
I'm the big, he's the guard.
I'm usually the guard for our team, how we run, so...
Start talking.
I want to kind of break this down in two different ways. We're going to focus on the offensive side, which I know a lot of you guys out there, you like the offensive side, you want to dominate.
Everybody likes offense.
Everybody wants offense. That's understandable. I completely understand that. There are two different builds that work in functionally the same way, but have different upsides that people like to run with. One of them is the offensive threat or scoring machine. Now, this build is blue-green at about 6'3 to 6'5. It speed boosts. It shoots really well with about an 82 three-point shot, I think, and Hall of Fame shooting badges. And it gets, once you get it above 95, it gets contact dunks with Hall of Fame finishing badges. So this build is the best offensive guard build. It dominates, or at least for a time, it dominated completely the meta. Now, there is another build, and this is the one that I have. I didn't build it quite right, but this is the build that I run with. It's an all-yellow slashing playmaker. Now, don't let the name fool you. Slashing playmakers can still shoot really well. This build gets a 78 three-point shot. I built it at 6'5". 78 three-point shot, 95 ball handling, and can get an 81... 83, somewhere in that range, dunk rating. If you get it high enough, it can get contact dunks. But you have to get above 95 again. But again, speed boosting, really good shooting, not quite as good as the blue-green, and pretty good finishing, not quite as good as the blue-green. It's another option for those of you guys that want the Hall of Fame playmaking badges, want to dominate through playmaking.
Especially if you're going to try and be a dribble-heavy, ISO-heavy style.
Right.
Where you're just going to isolate. You got two corner shooters, and you're just going to play at the top of the key, dribble on somebody, and get either a three or a dunk in open space. At that point, you can live with the slightly lower shooting attributes or slightly lower finishing, especially the finishing attributes.
Right.
You will make your layups. Like, if you're going to finish at the rim, driving layup might be the least important finishing attribute. Now, I'll probably regret this saying this.
I don't agree with you, but
if you're open, you'll make the layup. If it's a wide open layup, you're going to make the layup, basically regardless of rating and timing.
Here's the kicker, though. The way I built my slashing playmaker, he has 5 finishing badges. I didn't put enough into his driving dunk. Now, at a 98 overall, which is where I have him right now, he gets like a 92, 93 driving layup, which sounds really good, and it should be. I agree. Thanks for agreeing with me. But he can't finish very well because he only gets 5 finishing badges. So if there's any kind of big man defense, especially with Intimidator, every big runs with Intimidator, it becomes a problem.
Yeah, and you have to decide whether you're going to float it, go for a reverse, straight layup, try and dunk on them.
There are options, and it's difficult to find the right option. That comes with experience. But I feel like if I had maybe taken a little bit off of my playmaking, because I went for full playmaking that includes a 95 post moves. I'm a speed boosting guard. I don't need post moves. I also don't need 30 playmaking badges, so it is nice. But anyways,
you could have gotten 30 playmaking badges easy without all that post control.
Right. But anyways, if you take just a little bit off of the playmaking, you can get maxed out green, that's 15 shooting badges, maxed out blue, which I believe is also 15 finishing badges, and about 25, 26, somewhere in that range, playmaking badges. And you're not a complete joke on defense. You're not Trae Young, okay?
Yeah. By the way, to all you guys who want to score heavy, put some points in something other than steal. You keep getting greened over and you wonder why it's not working? It's because you don't have enough in your defense. Defense wins championships.
Lateral quickness, perimeter defense, and steal. As a guard, those 3 things are what you want if you want to go offense heavy.
Maybe some block, but that's
I don't rely on block. I don't rely on block.
Well, you get some chase down blocks with your guard because he's big and
because he's 6'5", but that's about it. I mean,
you have block rating, don't you?
Yeah, I think I built that one with the block rating. But anyways, you're not a complete waste on defense, and you a good all-around scorer and an elite playmaker.
If you're not sure how you want to build it, offensively, defensively, whatever, you want to build the most well-rounded guard, what would you recommend? Would you recommend the red-green like you have, or red-yellow?
If you want a good all-around guard, I would recommend the red-green. That's what I have, the 84 overall guard I mentioned. He's an all-around two-way. Now, I realize now I made him too short. I made him that way on purpose. He gets a 91 lateral quickness, but that's because he's 6 foot tall. He has an 84 perimeter defense and Hall of Fame intimidator, but he still occasionally gets greened over by really elite shooters. So
because you're so short, it's hard to contest.
He's so short. Now, I went back and I built a 6'5 version of this very same player. Now, let me spell it out for you.
Does it speed boost?
Mid-80s defense. We'll get that off the table first. 84 perimeter defense, like an 86 lateral quickness. Of course, you're going mid-weight. And like an 83 to 86 steal, somewhere around that same range. So your defense is above average, definitely good, not elite, but you're
consistent. Definitely
consistent. You're only part red. That's expected.
If you get scored on with this build, it's your fault. Kind of.
Unless it's lateral quickness.
Like a max red build will kind of bail you out on defense. Yes. This isn't going to do that, but it's good enough defensive attributes.
For a good defensive player on the sticks, this build will accentuate how good you are. It's that kind of build. Now, I'm kind of working this way backwards, down the way people usually see their players built. Blue, green, yellow, red. I'm going to kind of go backwards because I started with defense. Because to me, I very highly value defense.
Especially with such an offensive-heavy meta on guards, starting with defense might not be a bad option.
So anyways, this build is very solid defensively. Mm-hmm. It can speed boost. Don't let the lower ball handling rating fool you. It gets, I think, an 78 to 81 ball handling rating. But being part red, you still get a high speed rating. And that is enough, especially with the Gatorade speed boost.
What athleticism pie chart? All pink purple?
All purple.
Okay.
As guard, you want all purple, the most speed you can get, because it helps with speed boosting. And if you're trying to chase a guy around the court, it helps with that too. You want the high speed rating. I almost always go max agility, max speed and acceleration for a guard. Now, he's also an okay passer. That's fine. As long as you're smart about your passes, you'll make it work. Where this build lacks in playmaking is badges. You don't get Hall of Fame playmaking badges, and the way I built him, you only get around like 9 to 11. So you have to be selective. You're not going to be an elite playmaker, but you can speed boost, which is more than enough for some people. Shooting. You get Hall of Fame shooting badges. Big deal. You can run with Hall of Fame quick draw, Hall of Fame range extender, Hall of Fame hot zone hunter. Those are musts.
Oh, hot zone hunter's definitely a must.
Get your hot zones. Get hot zone hunter. It turned an okay 3-point shooter in my stretch lock, into a knockdown shooter that was actually the primary part of our offense for a while. It's fallen off a little bit. My shooting's gotten a little bit less consistent, but it's still really good with hot zone hunter. So anyways, I got 16 shooting badges with this build. Now here's the interesting part. You got a speed boosting playmaking defender
that shoots knockdown
threes. You're thinking, all right, this is a great build. He gets a 75 dunk rating at 6 foot tall. Mm-hmm. I think it's a 78 when I built him 6'5". And you can get a decent number of finishing badges. 7 to 8, maybe 10, depending on how you build him. He'll be an okay finisher and can be very effective combined with his playmaking and shooting. Especially if you run with the stretch big, with pulling the defensive heavy big away from the rim, you're finishing over guards consistently. So, as an all-around build, I understand I went into a lot of detail, but that's how I look into a build like this.
And you spent a lot of time building this player, making sure you got it perfect.
I spent a lot of time building this player and making sure it was just right for me. Now, kind of mess around with it when you're building it. Make sure it's right for you. Maybe you don't want so much finishing. I understand. You want a little bit more playmaking.
If you're testing a build, I would recommend testing on either Superstar or Hall of Fame difficulty at 50 game speed, because your settings, your game settings,
your play now settings that you adjust on the main menu affect your or not MP Nation. It affects your testing build that you put together in the build creator.
Yeah. So I would recommend Superstar or Hall of Fame difficulty. If you're 1, 2, 3 position, play against the Clippers. If you're a 4, 5, play against the Jazz.
So
That's how I test.
1, 2, 3, you're playing against 3 of the best defensive perimeter players in the NBA between Patrick Beverley, Paul George, and Kawhi Leonard. If you're a 4 or 5, you're probably trying to finish, and you're doing that against the best interior defender in the NBA, Rudy Gobert. Pretty simple.
It's an easy way to and at Hall of Fame difficulty, you'll shoot worse than you do. And I know a lot of you guys probably know the CPU cheese, so you can grind in my player games and whatnot. Just don't run the cheese. Try and do it legitimately and see where it gets you. Just play like a normal...
Because you're trying to see how this build works, not just how effective it is against the CPU. Actually try, see how it works against real defense.
Yeah.
So one last thing I'd like to mention as far as the meta is concerned, when it comes to two-way guards, I've been seeing more of the two-way slashing playmaker. That's going to be a red-yellow, or maybe even red-blue with plenty of yellow. I've built one of those, tested it. So basically the concept is great finishing, great playmaking, great defense. It's an overall solid build. You're a smaller, faster version of Ben Simmons, basically. You can't really shoot. You might maybe be able to spot up in the corner if you build him with all of the green he can get. But at that point, it's not really worth it. This build, again, works best with a stretch big that pulls the big man away. So, yeah. Either an all-around two-way like I built, or the two-way slashing playmaker is what I see more often. Either way, you're a good defensive player. You're a speed booster, which basically any guard can speed boost, I figured out.
So I have to ask, between ISO heavy, shooter heavy, and slasher heavy, what would you say the guard meta is right now? What should people be expecting when they play against other shooting guards? They're going to be heavy finishing guards, heavy dribbling guards that are going to be kind of dangerous in both categories, or heavy shooting guards?
Generally, normally you're facing a lot of screen cheese, and whether that means they're driving or shooting, that's generally what you're going to have to deal with. So, in my experience, for a while I was facing a lot of jump shooters, three-point shots or pull-up mid-ranges, moving mid-ranges off of screens. I have started to see a few more of this two-way slashing playmakers, or just slashing playmakers in general that are actual
If
blues.
those builds initiate a dunk animation, it's over.
Yeah, if you're a guard and somebody's trying to initiate a dunk, you're probably toast. Even as a part red, you're probably toast. Because
even as a big man trying to stop that guard, if he initiates a dunk animation, it's over.
Yeah. But for me, I have a tendency to lean towards, if you're trying to make a defensive build and you can't decide between, interior defense, trying to focus on getting stops at the rim as a guard, which is always finicky, kind of an all-around style.
Oh, yeah. Quick
perimeter.
note, interior defense on guards needs to go up. Perimeter defense on bigs needs to go up. Both of those need to go up.
Specifically, the second one, I agree. But anyways, I would have a tendency for you guys to lean towards perimeter defense, because then you're consistent at stopping jump shots, no matter where it comes from. Mid-range, three-point, coming off a screen.
Let the big, because you'll have a big, at least sometimes, to help defend the drive.
Right. Let the big man, your part red center, your all red center, which I understand is getting rare, but anyways, let your big man get the stops at the rim. That is the most efficient way to run a defense.
And guards can stop big man shooters who stand in the corner, and big men can switch onto guards that can only finish at the rim. So if the guards can shoot, big men can't switch.
Right.
They won't stop that guard from shooting.
Right.
But if that guard can only lay up or dunk, if that's his only way to score, or if that's the only way he wants to score...
If you're facing an all-blue or a yellow-blue that isn't a great shooter, or a red-blue, one of these builds, it's a slashing playmaker, you're struggling to stay in front of him, you're struggling to get stops, ask your big man to guard him, guard the launch zones. About 10 feet away from the rim. Or
not quite 10
Not
feet.
quite 10 feet. Somewhere...
Well outside of the restricted arc, but not like in mid-range territory.
Basically
like
double the range of the restricted arc. That little half circle underneath the basket, double that from the basket. That's about where the big man needs to stand.
Where they jump for their layups.
Exactly.
Because the idea is the way layup defense in 2K works, and trust me, as a big man, I know this. The way layup defense in 2K works is it heavily values, in 2K20 anyway, because 2K19 was all about the release point. In 2K20, it's about where they jump from.
Right.
So not only are you going to keep them from initiating contact dunk animations by stepping out towards them.
Most of the time.
You will, because they'll still get them sometimes. You will also be able to get those weird contests where you stand with them as they start to lay up. They slip past you, but they miss the layup anyway.
Yeah.
Or you can jump with them and smother the layup and just completely shut them down.
Yeah. So
you won't get the blocks. You won't get as many blocks, but you'll get a lot more consistent stops.
And the stops are what's important.
Yeah. If you block it, that's great. But you're not going to, even with Hall of Fame rim protector and perfect timing, you're not going to get enough blocks to make it worth standing at the rim against a slashing guard.
So,
take it from a red big man.
Yeah.
And I play a lot of big man. Just try and step out towards them.
So
most big men are going to try and stretch the floor so that their guard can get to the rim.
And that's why having a stretch big is so common and is so valuable to teams, even in the NBA in real life. Mm-hmm. Having a stretch big is extremely valuable. It spaces the floor and allows your guard to finish over other guards instead of the big man.
But all red guards don't do good enough at defending the interior. If that guard can only score inside, only score at the rim, the big man will probably have a better time stopping that guard at the rim.
And then, especially if you're on a stretch big, you guys make that switch, and now you're on a stretch big, you're just standing around, drinking your morning coffee and reading a newspaper while this guy's standing in the corner waiting for his pass.
Yeah, he's just playing traffic cone. He just got set up in the
traffic
corner.
cone offense. It's so stupid.
That is, we play against a lot of screen cheese, but as we get close to pro-level Pro-Am teams, because we're in between amateur gold and pro bronze, and we've lost a couple of games now, so we're more firmly in amateur gold territory. But anyways, as we kind of hang between amateur and pro teams, the closer we get to pro teams, the more I realize that they rely more on the ISO heavy style than the screen cheese heavy style. Because screen cheese has been kind of figured out. But the ISO heavy, specifically that momentum behind the back animation, that literally snaps your speed to the other direction.
And the defense can't keep up with it. You guys, if you've played anything online against any kind of decent ball handler, you've probably seen this move at least once.
You have to anticipate it. Because even if you move with it, you step out of the way.
You cannot react to this.
Because the guard snaps, literally, instantly moves the other direction, versus the defender who has to slow down and then accelerate, really high lateral quickness. You almost make it work, but it's just not gonna work.
Most, 99% of the time, most builds just cannot even come close to stopping it. Especially for you guys that
even
go
with
for
clamps.
Offensive.
Clamps doesn't work like it's supposed to.
That's a subject for another day. We're already running long anyways. So quick review on the guard meta. Blue-greens, all yellows. They're both really effective at all three forms of offense between playmaking, finishing, shooting. For defense, you could go red-green like I did, make an all-around kind of player that's solid on defense. Or you could just go for a more focused build on defense, make a red-blue or red-yellow. Two-way slashing playmaker. It works. As an all-around two-way with extremely poor interior finishing, I struggle to stop two-way slashing playmakers. So, there you have it. That's the really condensed version of the guard meta. And considering we're already almost 40 minutes, I think we just hit 40 minutes into this one, I think we're going to call it here.
Yeah. So, thank you guys for listening. Be sure to leave us a comment, let us know what you liked, what you didn't like, how we can improve, subjects you want us to talk about, anything we got wrong, let us know.
We only have a handful of these things planned, so any suggestions are very much
maybe
appreciated.
close to 10 episodes kind of
which will last a while, but eventually we will run out of stuff.
Yeah, so go ahead, leave your comments down below. Let us know if there's anything you want us to talk about, and if anything we got wrong. We'll go ahead and retcon it like we did the big man. Just kind of wipe that off the board and reset.
And we'd love not just you guys are wrong about this, but tell us why we're wrong about it.
Yeah.
Let us know why you think this is the way it is, or that this build is better than this build. Let us know what you think. We love the feedback. The two of us, we talk about it constantly. Talking about what builds work, what would work with this build,
Another thing that would be really helpful is if when you make these comments, because we talk a lot about 2K Online, specifically Park, Rec, Pro-Am, that kind of thing, if you let us know what mode you primarily play, whether it's in the Neighborhood 2v2, Neighborhood 3v3, Pro-Am 3v3, Rec, Pro-Am 5v5,
yeah.
Whatever, just let us know what your preferred mode is, what you normally play. If you only play My Career, then when we talk about the online stuff, I don't know if there are any exclusive My Career players anymore. Do you think there are?
There are some, but they're definitely not as common as they used to be. I am one of those guys, by the way. A quick side note. I started playing 2K in 2K11. I have been a My Career guy since 2K11. I didn't even start playing in the park till last year, as I've said before, so I have years of experience playing My Career. I personally love it. So I know for sure there are guys out there that are like me. But I have come to enjoy the park, and now I play My Career NBA games to get ready for the park with my friends.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think that's really why I do it, is the ability to play with other people, which you just don't get in a regular NBA experience in My Career. So anyways, thank you guys for watching, listening, I guess, to this podcast. Let us know what you think. Again, don't just say we're wrong. Tell us why we're wrong. We love the feedback. As always, like, comment, subscribe.
And next week, we'll talk about the rec center.
Well, the next time we post, it won't actually be...
Well, it won't be next week. It'll be roughly 2 weeks from now.
Anyways, the next time we post, we'll be talking more in depth about the rec center. Looking forward to it. See you guys next time.
See ya.